So we're going to graph y equals 4 sine x. The amplitude is 4 because it's the absolute value of 4, so it's 4. The period, 2 pi divided by b. The b value here is 1, so my period is 2 pi. In order to graph, we're going to need to start with these important critical values. And our first critical value is when x is 0. So we're going to evaluate the function y equals 4 times the sine of 0. Well, if you have your unit circle, go to 0 degrees or 0 radians, same thing. And the sine is the y value here in this ordered pair. So it is actually 0 here. So we have 4 times 0, which is 0. So when I'm using the angle of 0 degrees, my sine is 0. So I have that point plotted right here. Now I move on to my next critical value. I take my 0 degrees and I add to it the period divided by 4. So 0 plus 2 pi over 4, well that's really 0 plus pi over 2, and that gives me pi over 2. So now I evaluate the function when the angle is pi over 2. 4 times the sine of pi over 2. So I go to my chart. At pi over 2, the sine is 1. So I have 4 times 1, which is 4. So when I use the angle pi over 2, this function turns out to be 4. So there's my next dot. My third critical value, I'll go back to pi over 2 that I used last time, and I will add the period divided by 4 to that. So that's pi over 2 plus 2 pi over 4. Well, when you simplify 2 pi over 4, it's also pi over 2, and when you add two of them together, you get pi. So I will evaluate this function at the angle of pi, 4 times the sine of pi. So I'm going to go to my chart. Pi, which just happens to be at 180, has a sine of 0. So this answer is 0, and multiply that by 4. My final answer is 0. So when the angle is pi, the whole thing is 0. So over at pi, I'm again at 0. My fourth value, I will use the angle that I just used, which was pi, and I'll add again the period divided by 4. So I get pi plus pi over 2, which is going to be 3 pi over 2. When I plug that in, at 3 pi over 2, my y value is negative 1. I evaluate 4 times negative 1, and I get negative 4. So at 3 pi over 2, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. And then my final value, I'll take 3 pi over 2. I'll add 2 pi over 4 to that. So that's going to end up being 4 pi over 2, which is 2 pi. When I evaluate the function at 2 pi, which is way back over here at 0 again, my sine is 0. So it's 4 times 0, so I'm going to end up right back here at 0. So that's how I get my points for my sine curve. So the highest point's 4, the lowest point's negative 4. That goes with the amplitude of 4.